Now, going back to what I was saying earlier, some of you might say, why do I need to be broken down into pieces? Why do I have to experience brokenness in order for me to be given away by God? What is the blessing that we can get from that process of breaking? You know, as I take a look at this whole process, I realize one thing. And listen to this very carefully, folks. It was in the breaking that multiplication happens. Are you folks with me? The multiplication did not happen in the blessings. In the blessing. The multiplication happens during the breaking. Right? During the breaking. Sometimes we pray, Lord, bless me so I could be a blessing to others. And we see that we can only be a blessing to others when we are blessed. And sometimes you say, how can I be a blessing to God? If I have nothing. How can I be a blessing to other people if I am in this situation? Because our mentality is we can only be a blessing to others if our blessings are overflowing. Right? If our life is running smoothly. If we have everything. That is our mentality. But my dear brothers and sisters, you can also find blessings or experience of blessings even in the process of breaking. When we are in the season of drought or in the breaking process, we see it as a form of curse instead of a blessing. And the possibility of being a blessing to others is not there. That's a reality, right? According to Pastor Robert Edwards of SECC, I got it from him, this statement. He said, Jesus is a mathematician of a different order. He can add by subtracting and multiply by dividing. That's beautiful, right? And that's the reality of it, folks, right? That's the reality of it. Our lives cannot reflect the crucified Lord without the breaking, and that's the reality of it, my dear brothers and sisters. You can find that all over the Bible. His people that He used mightily, they have undergone the breaking process in order for them to become effective in whatever purpose God has given to them, right? So our lives cannot reflect the crucified Lord without the breaking, without the fraction, without the rending, without the sacrifice, without yielding, and finally letting go of our pride, of our control. And that is the reality why sometimes we need to be broken down or to be broken by God in order for us not to depend on ourselves, not to depend on what we have, but to depend on Him alone. And I also believe that the reason why so many Christians miss the presence of Christ is because they resist going to the broken places. Or they resist the process of breaking. So my dear brothers and sisters, you have to remember the story of these two disciples. That it was in the breaking of the bread that they recognized Jesus. Are you folks with me? It was in the breaking of the bread, in verse 30 and 31, that they recognized Jesus. So my dear brothers and sisters, I don't know, your story. Maybe you are in a drought right now. Maybe you are in that valley of grief, sadness, depression because of broken relationships, because of the diagnosis that you just got. don't see it as a curse. See it as part of the process. And don't ever say no to that process, because you might be like the story or the experience of these two disciples. That it was in the breaking of the bread, not in the blessing, that they saw Jesus or they recognized